Welcome to the Hype Jack. I'm your host, Kevin Jack, a coach, creator, and entrepreneur. And here at the Hype Jack, we're all about helping you focus on the three M's. That's media, messaging, and money. Now, our goal is to empower you to leverage all three of these to expand your brand and achieve success. Now, in today's episode, we dive deep into YSL Woody and how he has rebranded himself from a hardcore street guy to America's favorite witness. Now, we'll break this down and show you how you too, as an entrepreneur or creator, can rebrand yourself. Plus, what sports venture is the next billion-dollar baby? Well, we'll cover that and much, much more in today's episode. Now, let's plug in.
It's the Hype Check. Plug into the content. It's the Hype Check. Plug into the content.
Now, the topic of today's conversation is this amazing rebrand by YSL Woody. And so if you're unfamiliar with who that is, have no fear. I'm going to get you there. Now, YSL Woody was an affiliate who had close ties to rapper Young Thug. Now, for those of you who have maybe been under a rock or who are not very involved in hip hop culture, Young Thug is probably over the last 10 years one of the most major and most impactful artists. Now, about 2 years ago, well, it's been 3 years ago now, he got caught up in a RICO. And this RICO was set around and established around many of his key affiliates, turning their back on him. One of those being YSL Woody. Well, allegedly, the story gets very convoluted. Now, YSL Woody's reputation was crazy. He was basically deemed to be a psychotic serial killer. I mean, on paper, when you heard stories about this guy, you would think that he is a maniac. However, if you ask people what their interpretation or their perception of him is now, it's going to be incredibly different. And I think there is some genius there. Now, whether this is all an act, whether this is a stunt he's pulling, I don't know. I really can't tell you, but it is absolutely incredible, to say the least. I mean, so many times you get entrepreneurs, creators who are, they're doing one thing and they want to stick to doing that thing. And they are scared to essentially show people who they are, rebrand themselves, if you will. And so this is an insane take on this. It's entertaining, but I think when people look at this YSL Woody situation, it makes it a little bit easy for whatever you're doing in terms of branding. Now, getting back to the story, he was basically seen as almost like a Sammy the Bull type character. If you are into mafioso stories, the mafia, Sammy the Bull was this crazed hitman. Over the last few years, Sammy the Bull has had quite the rebrand where he tells you these insane stories, but you see this human side of him that you didn't get through these stories. And with YSL Woody, you're seeing this in real time. Now, to kind of break it down, he was the alleged hitter or hitman for YSL. And so he was the enforcer. He was the guy that you didn't play with per se. But if you look on the internet today, you're going to see him doing 20v1s. You're going to see him having, some candid conversation on different podcasts, and it really cast him in a different light. And so it's just been so incredible to watch this happen in real time, and I think we have to really break it down. So first and foremost, let's go to the number one value in the street, and that is loyalty in the form of silence. And so we've all heard the term snitches get stitches, and of course that is from, decades and a millennia of street guys and there being a code of silence, that street justice is different from regular justice, and that street business is handled in the street. And so if you go back and you look to only 6 years ago when Tekashi 69 was caught up. And if you don't know who Tekashi 69 is, do a deep dive. He got caught up in a RICO. He essentially told on all of his affiliates, sending them to jail and getting himself free. The same type of thing is happening here with YSL Woody, but the reaction or the public fallout has not been what you think it would be. Now with 6ix9ine, a lot of people started to call him, a rat, snitch nine, all of these different things. And so while he was able to have a career, it was not the same as before. But YSL Woody has developed his own almost cult following to the point where he's releasing songs, he's being booked for appearances, and you have to ask yourself why. Now, I think it comes down to he is just very authentic. And that is point one for any creator or entrepreneur who is listening. Authenticity can trump so many different things. And now the thing I'll point out is when you watch him testify on the stand, right? A lot of times it may seem like he's joking on himself or joking on other people, but he's very candid about who he is. For instance, most people would not brag about receiving a social security check. They wouldn't brag about being special ed. These are things that in his normal conversation, he addresses and he's proud of them. He stands on them. He shares who he is, his convictions. And it's really, even though you know his background, it's kind of refreshing to see someone stand on who they are. And so I think what has made him become so, I guess, lovable, for a lack of a better word, is that he has opened himself up to all the criticisms, because he says, a lot of times he says, I can't speak the way you guys would have me speak. He's on the stand. He's like, why are y'all messing with me? And it really makes you have compassion for him, right? And the authenticity almost seems to trump anything that he has done. The fact that he has been open and honest about who he is, it really is endearing. It is a breath of fresh air. So many times you have people that hide who they truly are. It's weird to see this, I'll do you one solid. He also went on to talk about recently how he and another person shot up this rapper's dad's barbershop. So if you're familiar with with Rich Homie Quan, and he was a really big rapper, I would say, in 2012, 2013, 2014. Him and Young Thug both were like the new young guys. And he is just candid and saying, I went and shot up this dude's barbershop. Now, that is a terrifying thing to think about, right? It is absolutely horrifying. But in the same vein, they ask him why, and he's just like, I'm supporting my friend. If you were my friend and I ride for you, you told me to go do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to go do it. And so the authenticity, it really trumps even the worst things that you can do. And so if you take one thing from, what is going on with the YSL Woody rebrand, I would say it's authenticity. That is the number one point. Now, moving on to point two, which I think many of us, we fail to adhere to. You have to sometimes, take the L. Take the L and be okay with it. In his situation, the L is being seen as someone who is cooperating. The L is being someone who is seen as almost less than, and he is embracing it. He is embracing it. He's saying, yes, I did such and such, and you can't do anything about it. And so he is taking the loss that he has, and he's making the most of it. he's going on to different platforms and he's expressing how he feels that he was manipulated and tricked by detectives, by attorneys, and by different judges. And this really plays a sympathy card to people like you and I who are just watching this thing. And so sometimes just communicating with people about the L's that you are taking or that you have taken, it makes people sympathetic to whatever your cause is. And conversely, it makes them want to support you. And so, what do I mean by that? I mean just this: YSL Woody essentially has gone on a press run. He's doing 20v1s, he's going on different podcasts, and he's telling how, you know, he was treated unjustly or unfairly from his perception. Because of this, many people find him relatable. They think of him as almost like a cousin, almost like a brother, the brother that gets into trouble, the cousin that gets into trouble, that just can't catch a break. And because of that, people are willing to support him, right? And so he has taken this L per se, and he's really turned it around in a way that I would never think a street guy could. Because most of the time when someone cooperates, when someone does something similar to this, they are ostracized from the community, especially when you talk about hip hop and rap. But this is the same community that is embracing him, and it makes for just an interesting perspective. And so if I could say, point two is, look, stand in your losses, express the losses, express how they have affected you, and just move on from it. Now he's taking his losses and he's just piling on W after W's after W's. And so as we move on to point three, I would say, is the most valid, and it is personality. Personality wins. Whatever your personality is, that is what is going to win people over. I think, however smart you think Woody is or is not, he has realized that in at least America, you can create a cult of personality. So going back to point one, being authentic, right? Going back to point two, standing in your losses and using those to build W's. Being a personality, whatever your personality is, you don't have to be like in your face funny. Sometimes just being you or being extreme, that is what is going to build those loyal followers, those loyal customers. And so when you look at Woody, it is really amazing that he is doing this, and he's doing it in real time. And you can tell that he has a personality because he has interesting perceptions of humor. He has interesting takes when it comes to just regular things about life. And he shows you that. So many times, creators, entrepreneurs, artists, musicians, what have you, they don't really want to show you the personality. They want to have a mystique. Woody has taken all of the mystique away from him being this hard and tough, criminal, for lack of a better term. And he's really gone on to make you feel like, man, is this a character? But it's not a character. It's just his personality. So whatever your personality is, build on that, stand in that. And, I think that you're going to be just fine. And so in terms of Woody and what he's been able to do, I think it's incredible. And it's something that it's a piece of entertainment. It is something outside of the realm of normal business talk, of normal marketing talk, that I think that as young entrepreneurs, you can step back and you can see, okay, if this street guy can rebrand who he is and pivot, so can I. So can I. And he's using that with just, the core tenets of the 3 M's, and that's media, messaging, and, he hasn't got to the money part yet, but his media and messaging are spot on. And so what do y'all think about this? Like, you got to let me know. I want you guys to DM. Is rebranding something that you're having a tough time with? What are the obstacles that you're really facing? Let us know. Shoot us the DM. Let's get the brand audit going. Comment. And if this is, giving you value, hey, share this with somebody. Now, moving on. There is a new cash cow that is on the way. And if you just watched the Olympics and the fanfare of said Olympics, I think this next thing is going to excite you. Now, many events are tied to the Olympics. And right now, we are coming into one of the most profitable sporting seasons in America. And that is American tackle football. However, there is a baby brother, per se, that is on the way. There's a baby brother that is potentially set to be a $1 billion baby. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should start to know. You should start to go look at some of the 7-on-7 content that Overtime is producing. Start to go look at youth sports and really get an idea of how big the market is. Now, billions are being spent on youth sports every single year. And there is a cash grab that is about to take place. Now, in whatever youth sport you want to focus on, there is going to be serious revenue potential in the next 5 to 10 years. And I'm going to tell you why. But the $1 billion baby was an unlikely one because for years and years it was looked down upon. And I am talking about flag football. Flag football is going to be a $1 billion business. There will be multi millionaires made from this particular sport. And you see different players who are positioning themselves, young entrepreneurs, young media guys, young content creators who are positioning themselves in the right place at the right time for the breakout event. And so flag football has picked up tremendous momentum over the last few years. And part of the reason that flag, in my opinion, is going to be that $1 billion baby is because it has three things which are going for them. One, the barrier for entry is very low and the cost is very low. So it is a sport where, unlike tackle football, where I just talked to a parent, they paid $500 for the helmet, shoulder pads, and then an additional like $300 to get into the said league that they're going to be playing in. That's $800 coming out of pocket. All right. Flag only requires flags, a football, and a field. The barrier for entry is very, very low. Now, two, you're already piggybacking on the popularity of American football and the rules. The rules are generally like very similar, so it doesn't deviate too much. There's no tackling. Of course, the physical lineman play and the hits are not there. But for the most part, one that's a fan of football could follow the flag game very easily. Now, three is the biggest one. And you have a break that's taking place where kids' parents are not allowing them to play tackle football. And so the numbers are about to be split amongst tackle and flag. And this is not necessarily a bad thing because the NFL has essentially cornered the market on American, professional American football. You can see already that they are putting money and investing in the youth sports aspect with the flag football. So you look at girls flag and how much money is being poured into it. You look at they just had the championships that the NFL hosted. This is going to be a big deal because it gives you a season that is not in the fall. So flag will be a spring revenue maker. And that means that you have a potentially a 6 month period where you get additional media coverage, additional merchandising, and it becomes an extension of the American tackle game that's already, put into place. Now, I think this is going to be really big considering that you have so many kids who have aspirations to play professional football, but you are limited in what you can do based on genetics a lot of the time. So you have to be a certain size to play linebacker, DN, offensive tackle. But flag is one of those games where, in terms of size, it really comes down to athleticism. And so it evens out the playing field. So on the third tip, some of the things that make American tackle football so special, right? In terms of the big hits, in terms of the just genetic craziness that you might see, that actually makes flag the next potential, brand bully, I would say, for those who are looking at sports media, those who are looking at owning sports teams. Then you talk about the NIL and what youth sports is doing. You're going to have NIL that is entering the space very soon for, the big three. So baseball, football, and basketball. Flag is going to probably surpass that of American tackle. And the reason for that is that you can see the kid's face. We've already seen the growth and popularity of 7-on-7. However, I think that 7-on-7 does miss some of the technical defensive aspects, like flag pulling, etc. And so you're going to see a lot of that. And it's just a game that lends itself to high media coverage. And so if you're a young entrepreneur, if you're in the media space, these are things that are happening that I think that you're going to have businesses built around. You're going to have merchandisers. You're going to have all of these different, basically like auxiliary components that are going to make this thing $1 billion business. But what do you guys think? Would you make the bet on flag being $1 billion business? You guys really do have to sound off. Let me know. DM. Of course, the biggest thing with flag is that it is about to reach the world stage. You will see it in the Olympics in 2028. So 4 years from now, you're going to see it as an Olympic sport. What that means to me is in the next 4 years, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are in the space of media, you really got to pay attention to this because there are some exciting opportunities that are going to take place in regards to flag football. There's got to be somebody to cover the games. There's got to be media outlets to really do the storytelling component that is so important in youth and professional sports. And so it is one of those things that entrepreneurs just have to look at. You got to look at and see if this is somewhere that you can position yourself, because I think the revenues are going to be high. Now, again, in the practical terms, if you're not involved in sports at all, it does make it a bit tough. But I think that flag is going to be $1 billion baby. You guys let me know if you're thinking the same. Now, this has been a great talk, great discussion. But we always got to plug into the content. And so, again, from this episode, here are the plug-in points, right? Now, first and foremost, everything authenticity. Second, stand in your L's. 3, build a cult of personality. Build that around you. Go out and do that. So try being yourself. Don't put on filters. Don't try to make us think you are who you're not. Just be yourself. Stand in your losses. Tell us about some of those losses. And 3, of course, build a cult of personality by being you. Now, this is Kevin Jack. This is Hype Jack. And of course, hey, it's been a great episode. Shout out to Donuts with Dudes, our roll call sponsor for the day, and lots of big things that are coming up. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you got some value from this episode. Again, shoot us DM, get in the comments. We got our brand audits coming. And so if you want us to audit your brand, if you want us to audit your finances to see how you're doing as a creator, entrepreneur, or just as a regular person, go ahead and make that happen. This is the Hype Jack. You know, you got to plug into the content. We out. Peace.
It's the Hype Jack. Plug into the content.